Sanjay, hello, how are you?
I'm doing wonderfully well. Thank you so much, Nathan, for inviting me here.
We'd like to talk a little bit about your role since leaving NXP, but also your journey through that. But then I want to know a little bit more about, for our audience, which is a global audience, just the context of where you are in India with your role. You must have great insights into India's ambitions in the chip industry, and also how that relates to what everybody else is trying to do with developing their own chip capacity, chip production capacity. So just start to the beginning. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much. So I'm basically from New Delhi in India, and I was born and brought up there. And I did my engineering from Delhi College of Engineering in electronics and communication. And I was lucky enough that I joined right from my campus days, global organization like Motorola, who exposed me onto this new world of semiconductors and electronics. And since then, it was never looking back because Motorola, being part of a global conglomerate, had so many opportunities to offer. So I
Mm,
started with a wireless baseband chip designing and spent many years as part of Austin Design Center. Learned a lot of things, and I was told to start those skills and competencies and grow them in India. So was part of the homegrown development of India Design Center with the wireless chips and a lot of those days popular phones like StarTech and likes of those. I was part of those teams, so very very fond
So
memories.
just, I mean, I used to write about the Indian mobile industry at that time, which was the mid 90s, and it was just taking off. So I think at that time, the a lot of the handsets were actually, although you might have been doing the chip design, I think they were actually then put together somewhere else and then assembled back in India. Is that right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Those were the days where Indians started working on these, new age products because, in those days, cell phone itself were pretty new into the Indian landscape. And we had, other centers in Motorola, in Bangalore and Gurgaon, which were working on pages.
Yeah.
Motorola, being a very wide organization, had multiple verticals. But the chip design vertical used to called as SPS, Semiconductor Product Sector. And
Yeah.
that's where I started my journey.
Mm,
And as part of this growth of Indian Design Center after wireless baseband, I got an opportunity to work into the networking division.
mm,
They were working on high-speed network application-based chips. That's where I leveraged all that I knew about low-power designs from wireless and
mm.
got into high-power designs in networking.
Okay.
And finally, there was an opportunity that they were looking for somebody to start the automotive team in India. Automotive being a extremely, I would say, life sensitive, critical application with zero defect and extremely complex in the analog world. I was given that challenge, and I look back, I gladly accepted that.
So
Probably
when
that's the
was that?
best thing I did.
When
That
was
was
that?
way back in 2005. That
Okay.
was a time where, yeah. And
So
before that,
that
I
was,
spent, yeah,
sorry, go on. Before that.
before that, I spent, one of the advantage of a global company, a lot of time with my global colleagues in US, multiple design centers in Brazil, in Israel, and many unique places, Germany. So in 2005, I started with the automotive design center lead. And that's where I would say, the most memorable journey started, where we built uh, this phase of my career, which ran almost 10 to 12 years. We created one of the largest team for the organization in automotive designs, catering from IP designs, analog, digital, silicon validation, the whole SoC development methodology, firmware development, and silicon validation capabilities. So basically, we covered the entire spectrum of complex SoC designs and also catering to the cutting edge applications like ADAS, advanced driving assistance systems, which were pretty new in that time.
Mm,
But our Indian team was instrumental in building those chips for radar and camera based applications. Then the entire infotainment chips for instrument cluster and dashboards, the
mm.
body control chips, and so much more. So it was very fulfilling journey that I had until 2016 as part of. By the way, by that time we had become Freescale because Motorola spun off the SPS sector eventually in 2000. I think 6-7 time frame as
Yeah.
Freescale,
Yeah.
and in 2016 NXP acquired Freescale. So
Yeah.
that was a time I was maybe another phase change in my career. So I was given the responsibility to become the country head for the new NXP, which had 4,500 people by the time I left across 4 locations: Noida, Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad, and we were probably innovating left and right. Maximum number of patent creation coming from India team and a very vibrant ecosystem. So it was a very memorable journey.
I could
Uh,
remember, I think I remember the
yes,
excitement when I met you, maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe before COVID actually,
right.
in your office in Noida, and you showed me around. And yeah,
Yes,
there's quite some impressive work going on there.
yes, it was absolutely wonderful time. I spent close to 27 years there. And there was a parallel world going on in terms of the Indian ecosystem, the passion of Indian government to make India as a semiconductors design and manufacturing. And
Mm,
as we all know, India is one of the fastest growing economy today, as a big economy in the world, growing at 7-ish percentage, and one of the youngest workforce in the world. So I thought that at that point of time, how I can also be contributing to that growth in the country, and especially with the Indian electronics ecosystem is one of the very rapidly growing ecosystem, and based on the data and research, Indian electronic semiconductors and ESDM consumption will potentially touch more than $300 billion in next few years by FY 26-27. And I thought I should contribute because being an Indian, that is a natural evolution. How I can contribute to the Indian ecosystem, and that's where I decided to move on after a long stint of 27 years in one company. Uh, I joined an Indian company called Minda Corporation. That company is basically automotive tier one,
mm.
designing pretty much every single automotive component that is required in two-wheelers, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, across passenger vehicles, industrial and
Mm.
commercial vehicles. And I'm responsible for the advanced technologies vertical in this organization as president and CEO. So in many ways, I'm leveraging all that I learned, but in many ways, I'm also a lot of things that are part of the new emerging markets business growth, and also working on a P&L, the real business side on how to best utilize your technology and your financial acumen for the overall growth of the industry. So
So,
yeah.
so, so I think now NXP is, I mean, one of your suppliers as well, potentially as well.
Yes, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
NXP is one of our suppliers, and many products that we are developing, NXP is very much there. And
Okay.
wherever it is the best fit, we always have that angle in mind.
So, I mean, I don't know whether I should ask you this, but I hear maybe from my travels in India, working, interviewing people over the last many years, that working for multinational corporations like your previous employer, and working for Indian companies or corporates in India is very different. What's the cultural difference?
It is actually it is a completely different world altogether, because in a MNCs, generally the processes and systems are all very well set, and generally the focus is more on the execution side only, and that makes you kind of it's like you are on a road where the road is already very well laid out.
Okay.
Working in emerging markets like India for an Indian company would expose you to many other challenges and
Mm,
opportunities that are generally not visible in an MNC for obvious reasons. But one of the biggest things that I am liking is the level of empowerment and the level of decision making, because being the headquarter itself and being responsible for P&L, pretty much all the decisions are taken by me, and that way it really pushes you very hard to be at your real best and
mm.
leverage all your all your skills and competencies so that you take the right decision and really grow the company forward. So I think both have their own I would say plus and minus, but overall it depends what you like doing and what gives you real kick at the end of the day.
Okay, I mean, you can't say it, but I can say, basically, you feel more empowered.
Yes.
Yes, and I think that's let's sort of move on to a little bit more on the your role with IESA, the Indian Electronics and Semiconductor Association. Now, I've been following them for many years as well, and there's always been talk about this $400 billion ESDM, Electronic Systems Design and Manufacture market in India. But tell us
Right.
maybe a little bit more about what the current ambitions are, because they've always sort of talked about this figure but never really had a understanding. Well, I didn't have an understanding of how the execution was going to be there, but now with this whole global sentiment to get local capacity and
Yes.
all the geopolitics, maybe there's a bit more of an urgency. Is that right?
Absolutely right. So this is my second hat as part of Indian. I always wanted to contribute back, and many years back, almost a decade back, I got involved into this association called Indian Electronics and Semiconductors Association. It has more than 300 companies across India. It includes both MNCs as well as Indian companies from semiconductors and electronics backgrounds. And now we are also getting a lot of software companies, services company, and in fact, a lot of companies which are from chemical and gas industry because a lot of talk about semiconductors manufacturing. So it's a interesting expanding space. The main focus from the country standpoint, which ISA is trying to do is trying to join forces to drive a common thought process on what industry wants to grow and help propel forward into this technology area. And very honestly, our government is today a very ambitious and very passionate government led by our honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi. And they do need, wise people from the industry who have the right thought process and the right collaboration mindset so that we can make it win-win. So, in nutshell, ISA is the voice of the industry to government so that every single policy, every single guideline that they create is fully aligned to the industry's thought process for welfare of the whole kind of industry in every way possible and grow it for a common purpose. Uh, I would say that it is more important than ever before because just to give you an interesting fact,
Mm,
India today is over 3 trillion economy, and it took us 60 years after independence to become the 1 trillion economy. It took us almost 8 years to add the second trillion. It took us 4 to 5 years to add third trillion. So you
mm,
know where I'm going to. Every next trillion is coming in shorter and shorter time. And with all the projections today that India is going to be close to, I mean, if we do the math, it will get double in economy from this point onwards to become 7 to 8 trillion in next 5 to 7 years, which means that in 2030, 32, maybe we can be 1 year here and there. India will be, third largest economy, and that would mean whatever prosperity, whatever growth, whatever industrialization has happened since independence till now, this will get replicated in next 7 years. And this is huge
mm,
because very important factor demographically that is going to happen is today per capita income of India on average is roughly 2,400 US dollars. And based on all the data, this is going to cross 6,000 uh, dollar per capita. And the statistics say that once your per capita grows beyond your basic needs, everything goes into discretionary, rather non-discretionary spends. And based on that, your spend on your, travel, your electronics, your gadgets is going to get exponentially high.
mm,
And that way, India is going to be one of the fastest growing, industrialization nation in terms of, let's say, white goods.
mm.
Today, it is one of the lowest side on the penetration of, say, TVs or refrigerator or air conditioners. And in next 20 years, the projection says we are going to be and rest of the developed world, which means big boom is going to come into the sector which is full of electronics and semiconductors. You talk about two-wheelers and four-wheelers. Today in India is one of the bottom most into the entire world in terms of the penetration per thousand people. But with the growing level, number one, number two, with the youngest population on the planet, and with the growth that is being projected in the economy, this number of two-wheeler owners and four-wheeler owners is going to grow exponentially for next 20 years. That means a lot of electronics and semiconductors growth, and that's where the future is.
So, yeah, I think just in terms of context, everybody this year has been talking about a global trillion dollar semiconductor industry opportunity by over the next few years. Where does India fit within that? Because I mean, you talk about filling local needs. How are you going to do that?
So I would say that if I get your question correctly, that how India is going to contribute not just locally but to the global needs.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say if we divide the whole high tech world and let's say semiconductors and electronics into two components. One is a design piece, the other one is a manufacturing piece. Right. Broadly speaking.
Yeah.
It is a known fact that India has more than 22 to 25% of world semiconductor designer based from all the top-notch MNCs around the world, whichever name you take, from US or from Europe.
Okay.
Right. This is already our strength, and this will continue to be our strength because as India is becoming the second largest startup nation in the world, with a lot of active government policies, a lot of I would say inflection point in terms of giving entrepreneurship as a very good career path, rather a very glorious and let's say 50 years back or 40 years back, where a government job used to be having that kind of a stature. Every single youngster coming out of college want to be opening their own company and startup. Right? So it's a big thing, and the foundation of world's largest semiconductors and electronic design skill is putting us right in the race of becoming the fabulous semiconductors nation in the world. Because I can guarantee you, a lot of people I already know, and a lot of people will come in next few years who will like to leverage their multi decades of experience to start their own companies. So we will be a nation which will be known design house and fabulous semiconductor company. That is on the design part, and that will serve obviously not just India but rest of the world, because uh, semiconductor needs are increasing rapidly, but the hunger for that around the world is even higher. Right?
So, I mean, we have seen a lot of these success stories because if you remember, in the 80s there was TI, and then there was the second generation spin-outs from TI and those various companies. And I'm guessing a lot more. I mean, I remember one person I met, Ghani is now working with Cosmic Circuits, bought out by Cadence. But yeah, there has been that going on. But I suppose the question is, they've always been designing for overseas markets. So my question, I think, was more about how are you going to fulfill the needs of India, and that means addressing the manufacturing bit as well. And I think there's been lots of talk this year about various fabs and Foxconn coming in and out, and various Indian conglomerates trying to be part of that. And where are we with that right now in terms of developing capacity in India?
Yeah, so I think a very valid point. So let me explain it by saying that there's a demand side and there's a supply side for semiconductors, right? So I believe that the supply side is being taken care of very well with the one of the most ambitious program government of India had with the 76,000 crore of semiconductors subsidy program that they launched a couple of years back.
Just tell our viewers what 76,000 crores means, because that's only a very Indian thing.
Yeah. So it's like a more than $10 billion program of direct subsidy that government of India is giving to anyone who wants to start the semiconductors manufacturing process in India. That includes multiple aspects. It includes a front-end fab, which we say typically wafer fab, into any one of the geographies from, let's say, traditional older technologies, let's say 180 nanometer, 90 nanometer, 45, 65, 28 nanometer, 16 FFC, or even 5 nanometer. Then, if somebody wants to open a backend fab, which we say ATMP, automated test, packaging, and marking, or OSAT, there are different names for that. But the idea is when the wafer is out, test it and how you make it, production worthy to supply to customers. So a backend fab or ATMP unit is much lower threshold, because if you need $8 to $10 billion for a wafer fab, you need typically about $1 billion or less for a ATMP. So even for that, Government of India is offering direct subsidy up to 50%, and the icing on the cake is another 20% is coming from state governments. So it is 50 plus 20, 70% is being taken care of. Any company needs to take care of only the remaining 30%. And even on that 30%, there's a preferred, taxes, preferred electricity rates, and all that. So overall, true red carpet, and I haven't seen any policy in my, which is so much, progressive and so much benchmark for rest of the world. That is this, program that Government of India is committed, and we from IESA are, shoulder to shoulder with Government of India in helping this percolate further. That is on creating the supply side taken care of. The only thing we need is the right technology partners willing to come and then work with either partnerships, JVs, or directly into this whole thing. Now let's talk about your other question about the demand side. Right? They may set up everything, they may spend their 30%, but how they're going to get the business growth and profitability. I strongly believe that the other side is also taken care of very well. Let me explain how. Number one, Government of India is giving a preferred taxations and preferred kind of a government orders, whether it is a defense or it is many things related to government purchasing, so that in companies which are going to take the localization based products, they are going to get benefit out of that in a big way. That is number one. Second, there are schemes like you might have heard of PLI, the production incentive. That is another very progressive policy.
So, repeat that. Production
linked incentives.
Okay, got
so
it. Okay.
Under this, Government of India, over a period of last several years, I would say 5 to 7, 8, 10 years, have every year incrementally added newer and newer devices which will be part of that. And in simple terms, it means that the more you produce, the more benefit you get. So it is directly aimed at the output rather than at the input side. So which means that if somebody is making products which will be based on Indian localization, Indian chips, obviously they are going to get the further subsidies on that products because they are producing it in India, right? It could be a lap, it could be a network application, it could be your infrastructure for telecom. Every year they are coming with newer and newer product lines which are getting added for electronics. It was for cell phone, obviously. In no time, India became from a literally zero cell phone manufacturing to one of the largest in the world. And you might already be aware for iPhone, the latest models of iPhone, almost 50% are being manufactured in the country, which is a very proud feeling.
Yes.
So this is something that, I would say has put a big spiral, upward spiral on positivity, thanks to these progressive policy which are taking care of both supply as well as on the demand side. Now, very important point I would like to add, Nathan. Companies like Minda Corporation, which I work on, I can tell you with that hat that there are so many electronic products that we are trying to develop for automotive segments, be it sensors, be it clusters, infotainment, cockpits, and electric vehicle products, all require chips. They all require components that we import right now. And one of the biggest, as a businessman, as a commercial guy, one of the biggest challenge I have, it is my desire that most of these things would have been local. I would be super competitive because I will cut down on the entire import duties. I will get them much cheaper, and I will be able to sell them at literally you know uh, 70% of the cost or half of the
Supply
cost.
chain costs, basically all the supply chain
Exactly.
costs. Yes.
So companies like Minda Corporation, which are really developing products into this high tech sector, they are going to be creating that local demand. And these are the companies which are growing very rapidly in last 3 to 5 years. And I believe that the demand side is actually coming naturally. And thanks to Government of India for promoting various schemes around electronic products, schemes like specs. There are different kind of fame schemes that government has done for EV vehicles, which are motivating companies like Minda. And I believe that the day chips are going to happen here, it will be super icing on the cake, because then we can give real competition to the global MNCs by local products which are as competitive and price wise and as high quality that you can
So,
think of.
so as chairman of IESA, what's your visibility on when you see the chips being produced in India in that respect?
I wish it was yesterday, but on a serious note, I think while government is pushing very heavily, but still we are waiting for one of the global technology player to sign up finally to do that in India. And I think the reasoning is also very something, especially in the today's macroeconomic situation and the geopolitical space. Almost every country, whether it's United States or it is European Union, they all want to do that as part of
Yes.
uh, their basis. So there's also kind of a political angle to that, and things might take time, but I'm sure that sooner or later, with the ground well laid out, it is a matter of time when things started happening. By the way, the good news is that very recently, um, from the ATMP perspective, we already got the good news from one of the global company, Micron, where they have announced the setup of their ATMP and OSAT facilities, out of India
Mm.
in Gujarat.
Mm.
Beginning has already happened, so I won't say that we need more time. I think that would be, we all are calling in India this as a watershed movement, where the first footprint of fab, in terms of the backend fab that is coming to the country. It's always the first step that is, take more time, and then once the train starts moving, we know that people, ride into the train immediately afterwards.
So what's the next in 12 months look like for you? What do you want to achieve?
From a ISA perspective, certainly as a chairman of ISA, we are doing a lot of focus on a few things which are not on the forefront visible. One is for sure the talent development, because we need to be ready by the time the ship arrives on the
Mm.
shore. So we know that semiconductors, whether you call it fabless or you have semiconductors manufacturing, both require a very high level of talent pool consumption. We have different reports which are indicating that globally there is such a high shortage of semiconductor talent already. I was reading to a couple of news articles. So not only to serve the global hunger for semiconductors talent,
Mm.
within India we need to create a lot of talent that should be ready. So ISA is working, with our, as well as through our dedicated programs in partnership with the ministries of and I'm on the board of Ministry of Skill as well, where we are trying to lay out the right curriculums and influence the right kind of education. Only We launched a program called Nationwide Campus Connect from ISA.
Mm.
And the idea is through a set of dedicated volunteers and focused people within ISA, we are going to spread the awareness about semiconductors and its knowledge base. As a matter of fact, a similar program I launched in NXP several years back. We used to call it NXP Campus Connect, where every other week we will have 1 hour topic on semiconductors topic, and they were all recorded topics so that for generations they will be useful. So we are now expanding using ISA even further. So that is one big cause that we are doing in background. The second work that I'm very proud about is focusing on the startup ecosystem. Again, this is something that we drove as part of industry earlier, as part of NXP, and now using ISA on a much bigger platform, we are trying to do that pan India and trying to be a single point of contact as advisory services on every single point that a young startup might require to be successful, whether it is right direction, whether it is right government funding to tap to. They are not aware of how to connect the dots, so that is what we are trying to do, and helping a lot of startups to be on their feet so that at the right time they really scale. And third thing I would mention is working as a partner for government of India and MIT in particular, Ministry of Information and Technology, where we are working for formulation of white papers on semiconductors, demand creation, and a lot of industries that want to come to India, they connect us as part of ISA. You'll be surprised. A lot of global industries from gas and chemical, from glasses to displays, they are connecting us that they would like to set up their bases in the country in anticipation of the big semiconductors manufacturing,
Mm.
and we are helping them to have their feet on the ground, then connecting them with the right channels through government. And you are already aware of the likes of Lam Research and Applied Materials,
Yes.
which have started their big R&D footprint in the country in anticipation of the big things that are coming up. And they are very much part of ISA. So for a change, ISA is having companies coming in chemical industry beyond just software, hardware, and electronics.
And it must help having ministers who actually are electronic engineers or studied electronics. Rajiv Chandrasekhar, your minister for
Absolutely.
MIT as well. Isn't
Yes,
that
yes.
useful?
Absolutely. So Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekharan is one of the very passionate leaders we have in the country. He's the Minister of State, and he's really leading it from the front, part of every single big initiative. Like we recently had Semicon India
Mm.
2023 in Gujarat, where we partnered with the ministry and Mr. Rajiv and his ministry, Mighty Mr. Amitesh Sinha, as part of Mighty, he's
Yeah.
the joint secretary there, along with also, you'll be surprised to know the Ministry of External Affairs is so active with their JS. They contacted us and requested us to connect to the entire pan world, officers and consulates to educate them about semiconductors. So invited me, and I, along with my colleagues,
Mm.
gave the talk to more than 15 countries, from Vietnam to Japan, from Germany to Austria, and so many other US, where we educated them how semiconductors is growing, how they can help us connect the dots with their countries. And I saw them equally passionate that they want to help the countries connect to us, and with the government, and helping the vision of India as the next big contributor and technical leader in this world. So everything looks very exciting from that perspective, and I'm very happy that we are able to bring ISA to that pedestal where it can really contribute. We have an excellent set of members, EC members, which get from the industry. They are democratically selected through election, and then we have the experience working in our different MNCs from the past, which we are now trying to leverage for
Mm.
growth of the nation.
Well, Sanjay Gupta, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was very pleasant talking to you, and thank you for giving the opportunity.
Thank you.